Good morning, folks. We were on the road early this morning, about 3:30 a.m. and the sun's coming up now. We just crossed the border into Wyoming after quite a good trip through Nebraska. We're on our way to California, 40th high school reunion that we're going to. We're racing the sun out to California and it's gaining on us. It's not up yet. We've got quite a drive ahead of us, about a day and a half's worth, and we'll take you along for the ride, show you some of the sights. So buckle up, come on aboard. Going through Wyoming is one of two states that I dread going through on this drive. The other is Nevada, because they're both 400 miles of nothing. And to make it worse, every mile you have a little marker sign that tells you exactly how many miles you have left to go before you're through that state. 400 miles, 6 hours of just nothing. Out towards western Wyoming, the sights a little bit better going into Utah. The scenery gets a little bit better. I don't mind Utah because Utah is only about 3 hours. And the first part of Utah is beautiful till you drop down into Salt Lake. And then you get into the crazy drivers there in Salt Lake. I don't know where those Mormon people are going, but they're in an awful hurry to get there, usually. But there's a few things to see, and we'll show you. The sun's coming up behind me here. Don't know if you can see it. You can see it in the rear view mirror. The only saving grace in Wyoming is the speed limit is 80 miles an hour, and with a little fudge added to that, it comes out to about 83. So you can make a little time. Cheyenne, Wyoming, off in the distance here. Just passed a couple Wyoming state troopers. West of Cheyenne, there's some rocks to look at. You also have these gigantic fence panels along the highway. These aren't to stop the raging herds of buffalo from stampeding across the interstate. Those are actually to stop snow. Because it's so flat out here, the snow will blow across and drift over the highway. And if you don't know what a drift is, it's like a giant sand dune made out of snow. So those fences disrupt the snow and they fall behind the fence instead of drifting over onto the highway. Now just east of Laramie, it's called Happy Jack Road. There's a rest stop here with a Lincoln monument. It's got a big statue head of Lincoln, President Lincoln, there on the hill. I guess they call this the Lincoln Highway. Dropping into Laramie, Wyoming here. Just coming into Elk Mountain, Wyoming. That's Elk Mountain there. If you're driving when the weather's bad here in Wyoming, this is some of the area that gets kind of the worst weather. When the weather's bad here in Wyoming and they don't want people on the highway, they shut the whole state down. We got caught in that one time. We were coming into, I think, Rock Springs, Wyoming, coming east, going to Nebraska, and every town in Wyoming has a big gate at the edge of town that closes the highway. So you either can't get out. Once you try to get on the highway, the gate will be closed, or if you're coming into town, you won't be able to pass that town because they stop everybody in the towns. They don't want anybody out on the open highway where there's no services. So if you get behind one of those gates, you better plan on getting a hotel room because they'll keep it shut down overnight. When they do that, it's got to make the state a ton of money because you figure the interstate just shuts down, and instead of people just driving on through Wyoming without spending their money, they now have to stop. They got to get a hotel room. All the gas stations are full. All of the restaurants are full. It's like turning on a money machine when they shut the freeway down. About halfway through Wyoming, you have Rawlins, Wyoming, making pretty good time. About 3/4 of the way going westward through Wyoming, you have Rock Springs, Wyoming. We're going to stop and get fuel for the second time and probably scarf down our lunch that we brought with us before we get back on the interstate. All right, lunchtime. I made road food last night. I made 2 pizzas and 2 rotisserie chicken wraps for the road, so I didn't have to spend a lot of time searching up food. Just got to get gas and go. Excuse me, sir. Which way to the highway? Thanks. He was not much help. Well, the sun has won the race, so time for the shades. Let's get back on the interstate. We're headed towards Green River. We got about 100 miles left of Wyoming. Then it's Utah. At the Green River Tunnel, first of 2 tunnels we're going to do today. Ready to hold your breath? You got to hold your breath. Clear to the other side. Go. That was an easy one. Welcome to Utah. Only 3 hours of Utah, though. We're coming into my favorite part of Utah, dropping down into Salt Lake. The mountains are beautiful in here. They got a kind of a red color as you drive down through the canyon here. It's beautiful. Then up ahead you get into Colville area where it's fall and the trees are going to start turning. We'll show you that. That's a beautiful area too. Beautiful. All the trees are starting to turn. Got a little creek that kind of meanders through this area here. Beautiful area. Probably a high rent neighborhood being so close to Salt Lake. Now, not too far ahead is the turnoff to Park City, Utah. It's a really super neat town. When the Olympics were in Salt Lake, the Winter Olympics, I believe that's where all the skiing events and stuff were in Park City. And super neat town. My buddy lived there. We stopped in there one time and stayed the night and went to dinner with him. But in that town, the ski lifts, if you're a skier, take off right from the middle of town, and you can ski down the mountain. It's kind of nestled into the mountains there. And you can ski all the way down into the middle of town. And the ski lifts take back off from there too. It's a super neat little town. And I don't know if it's still that way, but the transit buses that run there in town are all free. You just get on and go. You don't have to pay anything. But neat little town. All right, we're coming into Salt Lake, so no video for a while because I don't know if you've ever been to Salt Lake, but it's white knuckle driving coming down into Salt Lake. people drive like the speed limit is just a suggestion. And if you've never done it, the best way to get through Salt Lake is just set your cruise control on the speed limit, stay in the right lane, and just let them all go around you. Don't even try to get out into that madhouse. Boy, the last 10 miles down that grade was like a meat grinder, I tell you what. Got all those big rigs using all of their lane and half of yours, and you got people going by you on your left like 80 miles an hour. Crazy. Hate doing that stretch. A little better view of the lake from up on the hill here. Gigantic lake, and that mountain you see there is actually a big island in the middle of the lake. Now the reason all of this salt water is here is this used to be part of the ocean. Long time before we were around, and then as the ocean level receded, or the tectonic plate shifted, or whatever, this got cut off from the main ocean, and then through evaporation the water got saltier and saltier. So now this is where a lot of the world's salt comes from, right here. What they do is they have these ponds right next to the salt lake here, and they let the water into the ponds. And as the water evaporates from the ponds in the sun, it leaves the salt deposits, and then they go through there and scoop it all up, take it to the plant, and then they refine it, clean it up to where it turns it into table salt, kosher salt, whatever kind of salt you want. A lot of the salt goes all around to like the Midwest to put on the road for the winter and stuff like that. All the impure salt doesn't need to be so refined. Now right here along Salt Lake is a little community called Tooele. I used to think it was called Thule, because that's kind of the way it's spelled on the signs. But the locals call it Tooele. And usually you need to stop here to get fuel before you head out into the salt flats, because there is no fuel out there. Between here and Wendover, Utah, right on the Nevada border, there is no fuel. But our range to empty is 324, so we're good. Wendover's 98, and that's a pretty desolate 98 miles. We'll show you part of it when we get out there. We'll show you Bonneville Salt Flats and all that. So about 25 miles from the Utah-Nevada state line, somebody decided to come out here in the salt flats and do like an art project. I call it the stupid tree. I can think of about 1,000 better ways to spend money. Now out there towards, a little further towards the base of those mountains is Bonneville Speedway. And if you've never watched the movie The World's Fastest Indian, I highly recommend it, with Anthony Hopkins. Fantastic movie. But that's where people try to set the land speed record out there, because in the summertime when this salt dries up, it's perfectly flat for miles and miles. And you can get going really fast out there, and you don't have to worry about hitting anything. Now straight ahead, you see that the mountains there straight ahead. At the base of those mountains is the Nevada border. It's about 20 miles. Looks closer, but it's not. The town on the border is named Wendover, and it spills across the border. There's the Wendover part of Nevada and then Wendover part of Utah. You can gamble, and there's casinos in the western part of Wendover that it's in Nevada. But if you cross the border in town, there's a line painted on the main drag where the Nevada-Utah border is. If you cross that line, there's no gambling or anything else on the east side of that line on the road. Well, there's Wendover, and there's the Nevada line. So Elko is about 100 miles away. We got 188 miles worth of fuel left, so I think we'll probably fuel up in Elko. Well, just west of Wendover, we cross into the Pacific time zone. It'll be our third time zone of the day. You can see our readout there says 4:25. Well, that's Nebraska time. It's actually 2:25 here in Pacific time zone. So Nevada is another 6 hours and 400 miles. And I want to eat up as much of Nevada as I can before it gets dark. So since it's only 2:30-ish, that'll only make it 8:30 by the time we get to the other side of Nevada. And that's a little after when the sun goes down. So we'll be able to eat up most of Nevada. I'll bring you the high points of Nevada, but there's not going to be too many. All of Nevada pretty much looks like what you see here. All 400 miles of it, unless there's a town here and there, and then it's just a town, and then you're back to this. This is one of those animal overpasses. It's all dirt and brush and rocks up there on top of that, and the animals can cross over the highway without crossing the road and getting hit. Now you might be wondering, how did they get the animals to cross there? Well, for 4 or 5 miles on either side of that, there's like an 8-foot tall fence here alongside the road. So the animals pretty much got to funnel down to that point to get across the road. They just kind of follow the fence until they find an opening, and that's where that is. And they put it there because they've determined the major migratory trails for the animals, so that was the best spot to put that, apparently. All right, we are in Elko, Nevada. Just got fuel. I ate another one of my meals, and I got some coffee here from the gas station, because when I'm driving, I don't eat meals without chasing them with coffee, because I'll get sleepy. So let's try to burn up some more of Nevada. If I were to stay here, I'd have 8 hours left for tomorrow, but I want to eat part of that up. So let's roll. Well, our second tunnel of the day is closed. They're having us do a go-around. Got a beautiful sunset over Nevada tonight. We punched through the rain. Gorgeous out here. All right, we made it to our hotel here in Fernley, Nevada. It's about 7:30. So the reason I stopped here is we're going to kind of go in the back way to California tomorrow, so I can avoid I-80 and all of the crazy traffic south of Sacramento. We're going to go south from here and go over another pass into California, kind of right in line with where we're going. Much more beautiful drive, and we'll be able to show you that. We'll leave at first light in the morning, so see you in the morning. All right, folks, good morning. It's 6 a.m. here in Fernley, Nevada. We have about 4 hours to go to our destination. Yesterday, we traveled 18 hours and went 1,232 miles. So we don't have near that much to go today. We'll be at our destination before noon. It's dark right now, but by the time we hit the Sierras, it'll be daylight. And I'll show you some of the Sierra Nevada mountains. It should be beautiful this time of year. Let's get rolling and get on into California. Now, a little tip: when you're traveling, you can save yourself on your accommodations by booking online. And I have proof of that. I was on the phone with Kelly rolling in here last night once I figured out that I was coming to Fernley. And she told me what the price was for this hotel. Well, I rolled in, and when I walked in the lobby, the lady asked if I had a reservation. I said no. I said, do you have anything? She said yes. And then she told me the price was $80 more than what Kelly had told me, what it showed online. So I said, hold on a minute. I got online and it showed a cheaper price. So I booked my reservation right there online, standing at the counter. And I looked up at the lady. I said, "Okay, now I have a reservation," and she booked me in. But it's crazy how they price gouge you if you walk up to the counter. So do yourself a favor, book your stuff online once you figure out where you're headed. Well, the sun is coming up. We're rolling into Carson City, Nevada. Lake Tahoe is right over the top of this hill here to the right. We're going to be going over a path a little bit south of Lake Tahoe. My folks were actually married in Carson City, Nevada back in the 60s. I was born in 66, so it had to be right around there. I don't know the exact year. But back in the day in California, people that eloped, which is what my folks did, you went across the border from California into Nevada, because in Nevada, there's places you could just walk into and get married. So you had to be careful, like when you're up gambling and partying, that you didn't end up married before you got home. But they planned on it. They came over the hill just to do that. We're dropping into the area of Minden and Gardnerville, Nevada, which is where we're going to turn back west again to go over the pass. Kind of misty down in here this morning. Now, I had a co-worker one time when I worked at the sheriff's office. He owned a plane, and every now and then him and a couple buddies on a work day would take the day off of work, not tell their spouses. They would hop in his plane, fly over the hill into Carson City, party and gamble all day, fly back to California to be home at their regular time from work, and their wives had no idea that they were doing that. Kind of sketchy, but there are those people in the world. Now, this area here on the east side of the Sierra Nevada mountains is just absolutely gorgeous. And a lot of people move over here from California. You kind of got the best of both worlds. You can live in the free state of Nevada, and you're still close enough where you can jump over the hill and go visit your family in California. That was originally our plan, to do that, until we came over to check out the real estate prices in Nevada. It's up in the millions of dollars now because of all the people moving over here from California. You can't even afford the real estate anymore. So, and then everything east from here, clear to the Rocky Mountains, is pretty much high desert. And living in the desert is really not my thing. So that's why we ended up in Nebraska, because that's not desert, big beautiful green country out there. Plus I had family there, and the real estate was affordable. We could still afford to have a few acres and live our dream out there. Here we are, folks. California's back door. I should have got fuel before now, because probably $1 more a gallon just crossing the border. It's the absolute gorgeous time of the year up here on Kit Carson Pass. That's another reason I wanted to come this direction. All the aspen trees are changing colors. It's a pretty awesome sight. Now, all of these passes in the Sierras are named after the people that pioneered them back in the day, that broke the trail over into California. Now, most of these passes are closed in the winter because of the snowfall. There's a gate on either side that gets closed. Very few roads stay open, like I-80 over Donner Pass. That stays open year-round. It only closes while they're clearing snow in the winter, but they try to keep that open as an artery. Now, back in the day when the pioneers were coming over the mountains trying to get to California, it was kind of an unwritten rule that you did not start over the Sierras after October 1st, because you could get snowed in and then you'd be stuck. The Donner Party, which Donner Pass is named after, they found out the hard way and got stuck in the mountains. If you've never read that book, I recommend it. It's one heck of a story, really makes you appreciate life. And I don't know if there's anybody alive today that could endure those types of conditions that they did. But it's a good read. And we just crested the summit of the pass. Now right on the summit is the Sierra Rim Trail. You've probably heard of the Appalachian Trail, which is over on the East Coast. This is the West Coast version of that. It goes from Mexico clear to Canada on that trail. It goes through Yosemite National Park and all that. My friend Paul actually has done the whole trail in segments with a pack train using pack mules. And he did the whole trail. Pretty amazing feat. Now this is Caples Lake, which is just past the summit. And then up behind this lake, there's another lake that you can backpack to called Immigrant Lake. I've been up to Immigrant Lake several times on pack trips. Beautiful area. And then we used to come to Caples Lake when I was a kid. A few times we came up here to camp. It's a really nice alpine lake up here. So look down into the river canyon down here. This is actually the area where the immigrants used to come through down there. You can just imagine the determination it took to get through these mountains back in the day. It's gorgeous. Now right up above us, there's an avalanche area here that's really dangerous. You can see at the top of the hill they have those barriers up there to try to hold the snow back, keep her from sliding off the hill here. But when you come through here in the winter, it always says danger of avalanche. And the snow will be like this tall when you come through. There'll be like a sheer wall of snow from the snowplows coming through. Kirkwood Ski Resort's right up the road, so they keep it open all the way up to Kirkwood here on the west side. Now all along this path, there was resupply stations every day or so ride, sometimes 2 days. And some of those stations still exist. We'll show you one on the way. But places where you could stop and resupply if you were coming over the pass, they were only open during the years where the path was open. Here's Silver Lake. Looks like the water's down a little bit. You can see these tall black poles on the side of the road with the reflectors on them. Those are there so the snowplows know where the roadbed is when they're clearing the road. They don't get off of it. Here's one of those stations we were telling you about. This is Ham Station. They were usually named after the person that ran them. Here's Cook Station. Neat little old stores and stuff. That one's actually for sale. And when you're coming down the west side of the Sierras, the pine trees thin out and you get into the foothills where there's a lot more oak trees and stuff like that. Get a lot of fires up on this side of the Sierras because it's a lot drier. Oh my gosh. Yes, I should have got gas in Nevada. Well, that hurt. Also realized, almost forgot, this is the land of the locked bathrooms. Everything's locked up to keep the homeless out of the bathrooms because they go in there and take baths and do drugs and all kinds of stuff. So they won't let you into their bathroom unless you buy something from the store. No wonder everybody's pooping on the streets in California. Now I cap on California a lot, but I got a lot of good memories from California. I grew up here, was born and raised here. And I do have some, sentimental thoughts about California. My heart will always be here. But this is not the California of my childhood or my upbringing. Completely different than when I grew up here. I don't know how my kids survive here with these prices. Pretty crazy. Just got a text from my cousin. My Uncle Carl passed away this morning at 6 o'clock. Sad day. he was living in the nursing home, the same one as my mom lives in up there. I used to see him every morning when I would go up and see Mom. He didn't know who I was anymore. And I know he wouldn't have wanted to live that way, the way he was living, being spoon-fed and not remembering anybody, but still a sad thing. Got a lot of good memories coming out to Nebraska and helping him farming. And my thoughts are with my cousins right now back there. I'm sure he passed with everybody around him. So sad morning. Well, we're down into the foothills now. All grassland out here, a lot of cattle raised out here. Pretty dry this time of year. Almost to my old stomping grounds. Not too far now. When people think of California, this is probably not what they envision. The whole east side of the Central Valley, this is what it looks like here. It was too hilly for field crops, so they just left it all to the cows for grazing for beef cattle. Now, one thing I got to give California props for is making their cell phone towers a little more visually appealing. This one looks like a tree, but that's a cell phone tower. Woodward Reservoir here. Very popular lake. 4th of July, you can barely find an empty spot in here. There's probably a couple 100,000 people here on the 4th of July. People come clear from the Bay Area. Now, I spent a lot of time diving in the bottom of that lake for drowning victims. During the summer, you can almost count on every single weekend there being a drowning or two, either there or one of the other 2 or 3 lakes we had here in the county, because drinking and swimming don't mix. Either that or it was a kid that was on a plastic raft that the wind blew him out away from the shore and they got scared and jumped out. Pretty tragic. Now, some of you may not know that I'm a certified hard hat diver. I was on the Sheriff's Underwater Recovery Unit when I was a deputy. We used to dive for evidence, like in murder cases and stuff like that, if somebody was to throw a gun in the water, or vehicles that people would dump in the water, we would recover those. Also, when people just drove off in the water, sometimes there was people actually in the cars, deceased, of course, because by the time they called us out, it was way too late. And then just regular old drowning victims, plenty of those, sometimes 2 and 3 at a time, because people would go in and try to save them and then they would drown too. It's pretty tragic. I do miss all the diving though. It was fun, even though it was tragic circumstances. But we had all the certifications. We went to the Kirby Morgan School down in Santa Maria and got hard hat certified, because surface water or surface supply diving is a lot safer than just free diving, because you don't have as big of a chance of running out of air. You could pretty much fall asleep on the bottom, you'd be fine. And then clear up the swiftwater rescue technician, all of that stuff. But has so much water in this county, you almost had to have all that. Once you're down in the valley here is where you get all the field crops. Lots and lots of almond orchards. We call them almond orchards here in California. But you get a lot of nuts and fruit crops, lots of corn, hay fields. Basically, the whole Central Valley is all farmland. People don't think that about California either. They think it's all big cities and beaches. All right, folks, we have arrived. A little town called Waterford, California, where I spent most of my adult life, basically beyond high school. So it's just before lunch, so I'm going to head over to my good friend Kathy's restaurant and going to have lunch. I don't even think she knows I was coming to California, so we'll have a good surprise reunion with her. We just pulled up. She sent pictures on Facebook a couple weeks ago Somebody tried to make her restaurant a drive-through the other day. Their foot slipped off the brake and they rammed into there with their pickup. All right, had a real good visit with my friend Kathy. I walked back in the kitchen, scared her to death. She was happy to see me though. Had some real good grub too. We got to catch up for a while. Now I'm going to my buddy Matt's house, which is about 5 minutes away, and I'm going to be hanging with him for the next week. And we'll see what kind of trouble we can get into here in California. Now Ramona doesn't know I'm coming to California either, or came to California, so I'm going to surprise her tonight after dinner. So that'll be fun. But thank you guys for riding along with me. It was nice having somebody to talk to, and I hope you enjoyed the trip. And we're probably going home probably the same way, so probably won't video on the way home. I'm glad I made that push yesterday, so I had a real just relaxing morning this morning, cruising over the Sierras. It was so nice. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. We love you guys. We'll see you all real soon.
Thank you.